It's such a pleasure to be here. So me, being the very first one to kick this day off, I would like to start off with everyone giving me the best smile ever. All right, beautiful. Okay, now that the room is super energized, I would like to just easily introduce myself. So my name is Sugiyama, and I work for Change and Transformation team at Google. Now what do? My customers are B2B organizations that we work with. And what we do is once they decide that they would like to deploy Google products into their organization, we jump in so that we can advise in how to plan and execute these change initiatives so that their employees can get easily adapted to these changes. Now, through these different engagements with the customers, what we've seen as a trait is that innovation has been a key thing. And building innovative organization has been their key aim for this as a result of this change effort. So with that today, what I would like to speak to you is about three things. Number one, let's revisit what innovation is all about. Number two, we would like to kind of provide you with some of the key areas to focus on when we're talking about innovative organizations. And number three, with our own insights from Google, I would like to share with you our lessons learned and what has been working in order to cultivate innovative culture at Google. So before we jump straight into this, I would like to show you this beautiful piece of animation. It's just so intriguing to me every time I see this. So as you can see, this is how our workplace has been evolving. And this might seem, resonatable to all of you, and to myself too even. But another thing that is very interesting here is this represents not just our workplace, but it also does represent our personal space as well, if you think about it. Now, look at the rapidity of how things have been changing, especially over this past decade. And who knows what is there in the decade to come. This is the core reason why innovation has been explored right now. Organization, in order to catch up to this technology advancements, in order to survive through this change, we are fully in need of innovation and cultivating innovative organizations today. So I've been repeatedly talking about this terminology, innovation. How many times did I say this already? But let's all close your eyes and have a think about your own definition of what innovation can be. Close your eyes. I'll give you a couple of seconds. All right. Well, innovation is a very vague terminology, but we do think that it does come in many different forms. And we think it comes in three different types. So the first one is an incremental type of innovation, which is a process improvement where you review what is existing and current and keep on improving, keep on iterating. And second one is a breakthrough type of innovation, where can it be a product or design or a brand new concept that is brand new in the marketplace. And the third one being moonshot. Now, who in here knows what a moonshot is? Oh, a single hand, congratulations. Well, for people who are not too familiar with this terminology, this comes from a Apollo space project back in 1960s, where human beings took a human being to a space, onto the moon. And back then, trust me, this seemed like a crazy idea. People think that it wouldn't happen. But human beings did make it happen with the power of technology. And this is exactly what moonshot is all about. Taking in something that's crazy, something that seems to be impossible, and making it happen with the power of technology. And for those of you who may be wondering what this hot air balloon is doing here, this is actually a flagship moonshot project at Google. That happened a couple of years ago. And what we did is we took this exact balloon up to the stratosphere, to the remote and rural areas where people did not have internet connections. This hot air balloon had Wi-Fi networks emitting from it so that people with limited or maybe no internet connection can get power of technology, power of the internet, so that they can create a better education or better access to internet whenever they needed it. Now, my point here is, not all innovation has to come in this breakthrough form or even a moonshot form. Because incremental process improvements, this type of innovation, is indeed something that is super valuable on its own. And if you think about it, it'll come nowhere without this mindset of improvement. Moonshot will not happen, breakthrough will never happen either. However, I do understand innovation can be a tough piece of cookie. Although we all hope for all of our employees to have these kind of mindsets, it is very much a challenge for everyone to have this kind of mindset, even at Google. So for all of you, here is something. Now this man is Eric Schmidt, our chairman at Google. And he has once spoken about innovation like this. You have to get culture right. The story of innovation has not changed. It has always been a small team of people who have a new idea, typically not understood by people around them and their executives. So what does this mean? It means that innovation is hard to be ordained. However, given the right setting, with the right environment, you can actually create the culture where employees can organically create new things. You really have to get the culture right. And this is the core reason why at Google, we have been investing so much on getting the culture right. Management team, executive team, everyone has been investing strictly on this. Now, whenever we talk about cultures, we constantly focus on these 4 factors: vision, rules and policies, facilities, and tools. And these are the 4, we believe, that build company cultures and organizational cultures. Now you can see these 4 factors can come in forms of a very conceptual stuff to a very physical stuff. But what I can tell you for sure is these 4 are equally important. And you have to get these right so that they are consistent throughout the organization. Now with that, I would like to share with you some of the insights related to these 4 things that Google has gone through with some of the examples that we have at Google. So first one is vision. And insight number 1, have a bold and compelling vision. Because vision is the DNA, it is the core of an organization. And we've been holding this to heart at Google as well. Vision is the foremost important thing. We actually have 3 different principles that relates to this vision. Let me provide with you some of the details that we have here. So first one is mission. And mission, as you all may know, is the core reason why the organization exists and what the organization aims for day to day. For example, at Google, we have a very solid mission statement, which reads, I have to make sure I do not make a mistake on this one, to organize the world's information, to make it universally accessible and useful. And this is our North Star. So whenever we get lost in the decision making, or whenever we get lost in the goals that we should take, this mission statement is where we rely back on, so that we can be aligned with this. And another thing to note is this is not a dead statement, because we try to live and breathe this statement so that we can relate it back to each and every employee. Now, the second principle is transparency. And transparency is rather self-explanatory. Well, I just told you about our mission statement, which is to gather up world's information to make it accessible. We hold that true internally at Google as well. So what does that mean? We try to share all of the information that we have as much as possible to every single one of us in our teams, in our organizations. Because information is an asset. And with that asset, there is so much powerful things that you can do. And a good example of that is, with that information being shared, what we can see is what already exists in the company versus what does not. It's a very simple concept, but what this does is we can avoid reinventing the wheel as much as possible. And instead, what can we do? We can invest time wisely into building something new that does not exist in the organization, or we can focus on existing processes or products and, again, invest on actually improving that existing things. And the last piece, the third principle, is the voice. And in Google, we have a saying, ideas can come from anywhere. So think about that. I actually have a personal anecdote that I would like to share about this principle. So, ages ago, when I first started working at Google, I remember to this day, I was a month into my role, and I had a one-on-one meeting with my manager back then. And he asked me if there were any questions or concerns. I didn't really have any questions or concerns, but I did indeed have a suggestion that I really was dying to tell him about one of the existing processes that we had in our personal tasks, because I knew there was a way to improve that one piece of process. But again, if you remember, I was only a month in. I was scared to see if I can actually tell him this or not. But I gathered up all my guts, and I told him, Amy. And from that, he paused, and he asked me, what should the alternative process be? And I gave it a thought. I provided him with some data and some of the alternative process that I can think of. And he approved it. And to my surprise, he even told me I can go ahead and override the process manuals and also communicate with my colleagues about this change. This was super duper eye-opening to me. And this was exactly when I experienced that everyone at Google was actually living and breathing this principle. Because it was not about seniority or tenure or the title that I had. The key thing is to keep our ears open for these voices from the employees that are to come in, because these are very, very important information that we value after all. So as you can see with the bold and compelling vision, this can definitely give a boost to an organization, because a weak vision can tend to lose velocity in an organization. Now the second insight is around rules and policies. So insight number 2 for us is to create unique rules and policies that enhance creativity and motivation. And here I would like to provide you with 3 examples from Google that is related to HR, actually. So the first example is hiring. Now hiring at Google can tend to be a little bit of a black box to some of you, but it's actually pretty simple if you think about it. So a candidate will have to go through 4 different interviews with 4 different people, and they are looked at from 4 different angles. And those are role-related knowledge, general cognitive ability, what was the third one? General cognitive ability. Leadership, I'm sorry. Leadership. And last but not least, googliness. Googliness. I must say it is a very cheesy term, but it's pretty much a trait of what we seek for in employees that work at Google. And if you ask a lot of the Googlers, who are the employees at Google, they will tell you so many different things what googliness is all about. But some of the consistent things that we will hear is things like, oh, is this person able to navigate through ambiguity? Because a lot of things are ambiguous at Google. Things keep changing. It's a very agile company. Or can be something like, oh, can this person roll their sleeves up and tackle something if they run into any issues? Because we need someone who can execute. Or it can be people that are really gutsy and taking some challenges in their past. But either way, I guess my point here is, we are looking for the right fit for the role itself, obviously, because role-related knowledge is a very important factor when we try to hire someone. But equally important is the googliness. If this person can foster and live and breathe through this culture that we have at Google, and people do get scored on this, because hiring, the journey does not end after you hire someone, right? You want that person to strive through this company culture. So that is something important that I wanted to point out. The second one is around awards and recognition. And I love this topic. And I would like to bring up an example of peer bonus to you guys. It's a bonus that you can give out to your peers. Very simple. But I guess the unique thing about this is, so for example, let's say Ben over there in a different team has helped me out with my project. He did a stellar job, although this is outside of his core job. I want to give him a recognition, so I can give this peer bonus over to him, which includes a small amount of monetary bonus, which is pretty much equivalent to like a single meal with your significant other, and also this beautiful looking piece of certificate that you can print out and put on your fridge. Well, again, the point here is, managers, it is realistically hard for managers to know 100% of what his or her subordinate does in everyday action. But this way, what you can do is when you give out peer bonus, the person who is giving out the peer bonus can CC the managers, everyone in the team, everyone in his team, so that we can encourage these types of behaviors at Google. It is okay, and it's even great to do something that is outside their core job, because you never know where these new ideas can happen. Now the third piece is a performance assessment. Now who in your organization has this performance assessment kind of a rule system? Good, that's perfect. Well, we too in Google have this. And I guess one thing that I briefly do want to talk about here is in these biannual performance assessments that we have at Google, we also here as well get assessed about googliness. So even after a person joins Google, we want them to continue on being googly. So again, we want them to live through this. We want them to foster through this culture. And that's the reason why that criteria is constantly in there when they get hired and even after they get hired as well. So the third piece of factor was about facilities. Insight number 3, create an environment where employees can thrive. Now Google, I must say, is well known about their crazy, colorful, playful, let there be more, but all of these interesting looking offices. And media loves to cover about this, actually about us. But let's keep those craziness aside and drill down to the whys. Now, I would like to ask you, how many of you come up with brilliant ideas when you are at your desk 24/7? I personally don't. And here's the thing, it's all about collaboration and open space. Let me give you an example. Google is famous about its cafeteria. And it's great, I must say, their food is quite nice, they feed us, we don't starve, good. But it is beyond this concept of feeding us. Google cafeterias exist because our founders know wherever food are, people will gather. They really will. And where people gather comes collaboration and new ideas. And that is the core reason why cafeterias emerged, and in every single offices we try to have this, so that we can give them a space for them to think about new ideas organically. Now, in terms of cafeterias, there's another piece of information that I do want to share. So if you have a chance to go to Google cafeterias, take a look. There is no single seaters there. There usually are just big tables, bunch of chairs, and no single seaters. And again, this is due to the same reason. We want people to sit next to someone you don't know. Because organically and spontaneously, there may be some conversations that arise, and again, there may be some new ideas that emerge from there. And the last piece of example that I do want to bring up about facilities is about our meeting rooms. And in this digital era, yes, we do have a video conferencing device or hardware in every single meeting room. But there are two other things that are constantly in our meeting rooms. Can you think of what it is? So the two are whiteboards and Post-its. Yes. And this is because we all know nothing can beat your physical drawing or writing on the wall when it comes to brainstorming and ideas. So again, it is a digital world. We are an IT company, but we do not forget about these analog things. It's constantly there. And when you strip down on all these beautifications and designs and everything, the important thing is that everything has an objective. Everything has a meaning in facilities. And I think that's the importance of the environment building. And the last piece of insight is around tools / IT, I guess, in this term. Insight number 4 is to encourage collaboration with cutting-edge tools. So at Google, we use this 100% cloud collaboration tool called G Suite, so that everyone in our employees can connect with anyone, anytime, through any devices that you can think of. Because the world, you cannot miss the trait of globalization. In a lot of the organization, it is becoming bigger, more global with the power of the internet. And it does get harder to connect with those colleagues around the globe. But just because we're physically away from each other, we cannot miss the opportunity to be able to collaborate them with as well. And with a strong IT, that's doable. And I kid you not, I am placed in London right now, but every morning when I wake up, I connect with people in Japan and Singapore. By the way, my specialty is Japan, so if anyone's going through any struggles with Japan, please contact me. And at the end of the day, in the afternoon, I would talk to the folks in the US to come up with new ideas. So here what I would like to say is, please do not estimate the power of IT tools, because speed and efficiency is the key thing when it comes to innovation. And if you want to catch up with the IT technology in the outside world as well. Oh, before I go on. that becomes very important when we talk about culture. Now, some of the details that I did tell you about Google might not be 100% applicable to your companies, but there are always things that are universal to anyone, anywhere, which is number one, innovation and culture does correlate. You need to have strong culture when you want to cultivate. When you revisit your culture, 4 factors. Please remember them. It is vision, rules and policies, facilities, and tools are the core things that you do have to focus on when you revisit them. So me being a change manager, I do understand that there may be some gaps between where we are right now and where you want to be in the future. And we have that even at Google. Well, that's where we come in play. If there are any changes, if there are any improvements that needs to be made, I will provide you and end my session with some of the tips that you may be able to take home about this. So the first tip, innovation is a journey. Because it is ever-changing in the world. It's a never-ending journey. And with all journeys, it sometimes does not go as planned. Sometimes there might be failures, but that's okay. What is important here is for all of us to embrace that failure, understand why it happened, and apply the learnings in the future. And the second tip from me is to support your employees through this journey. Now, what does this mean? This means having executives and management teams, everyone that you can involve as much as possible to live and breathe the culture. Because leaders really do have to lead by example in order for this to foster and in order for this to, again, not forcefully, but organically emerge. And the last and final piece is to have fun. Because who doesn't like fun? I love fun. I love fun. And you can do so many different things here. Celebrate the new culture that you want to embrace. And you can have an event, have a booth. Just try to communicate with people and have your employees involved because they will absolutely love it. And the last piece of tip, I would like to end with a quote from a man that I really do respect. His name is Laszlo Bach, and is Google's ex-senior vice president of people operations. My last tip is, if you give people freedom, they will amaze you. All you need to do is give them a little infrastructure and a lot of room to change the world. And I think that holds true in any industry. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Lovely presentation. Love the energy, by the way.